What's up, guys? Jake Schultz here. I'm here with Gordon Ryan. I think some of the guys who watch my podcast might not know Gordon. He's probably considered, most people consider him the best grappler to ever lived. He's only, what, like 29, Gordon?
29, yeah.
29, yeah.
Basically 50 next year, but 29 right now.
Yeah, according to Mikey. So he looks like... But yeah, I think you're going on like a 60-fight win streak versus the best in the world, which is not exactly easy.
Yeah.
Almost all submissions, too. Like I think I don't know the exact submission rate. I think it's like 85% or something.
I think it's like 80, I think it's 80 or 82, something like that.
Yeah, which at the black belt level is like unheard of.
Yeah.
It's usually like, guys like Marcelo had submissions, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah. Marcelo was up there, Hodger's up there, Marigalli's high up there as well. So there's definitely some heavy hitters, but I'm pretty sure like for ADCC champions, I'm pretty sure I'm the highest.
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know the exact figures, but it's insanely high. And then you certainly hunt for submissions. That's part of the reason why you're so popular.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the we trained together for a while at under John Danaher, and that's kind of his style of just hunting submissions. Like Gary Tonin, which was your mentor. So let's start with that. Where did you first get training? Was it a Gary that got you training?
No. So I actually when I was like 7, 8 years old, I was in daycare, and a dude who's actually a blue belt under me now, he never did any kind of martial arts, but he used to just watch UFC, and he used to watch Rogan kind of like commentate, and he used to like come in and be like, hey, I saw Rogan talk about this yesterday on the UFC, and like this is a Kimura, and he used to like try to like recreate it, and he used to make us practice the move, and we used to like all circle up, and then we used to have like kind of like King of the Hill style matches where one guy goes in, and then whoever gets submitted is out, and whoever won the match kind of stays in. And we kind of have like these little King of the Hill jiu-jitsu matches like in the daycare. And it was like the craziest thing ever. It was like a little fight club inside the daycare.
Amazing.
And then I started watching UFC because of that. And the first UFC that I saw was a UFC 1, like a Hoist Gracie tribute. And it was Hoist Gracie versus Keith Hackney. And I just watched Hoist fucking kill everyone. And ever since then, I was like, jiu-jitsu is the best martial art. So then I kind of just got obsessed with fighting and kind of got obsessed with jiu-jitsu in particular. And then one day I was shopping with my mom, like we're in this random shopping mall in East Brunswick, and I saw a sign for jiu-jitsu, and I was like, I want to actually start training. So at 15, I started training, and I was under one of Ricardo Almeida's brown belts at the time, who was named Haas, who owned Brunswick BJJ. And then Miguel, who was Miguel Benitez, was actually the guy who was teaching there all the time. He was like a blue belt at the time. He owns his own school now. He has Montgomery BJJ over in Jersey. And he was the blue belt. He was like the guy who was teaching there. He was a blue belt at the time. And he was like my first instructor, like my first serious instructor. And then I met Gary and John and Tom later on.
Yeah, so you got sucked in by really good people. But how thankful are you for the daycare?
Oh, yeah. I mean, without that, I don't even know if I'd be doing jiu-jitsu. I mean, Anthony, he actually started training right before I left Jersey in COVID. And I gave him his blue belt right before he left, and one of his kids is actually my godson now, so I stayed close to them this whole time, and yeah, I mean we were always like kind of fighting as kids, not fighting, but like wrestling and rolling
which is
around.
good. A lot of people say that's like child abuse, but that's great to be wrestling and not punching each other, but like wrestling, learning submissions, learning how to fight. I think all young kids should learn how to fight. Yeah,
I agree, and there's the stuff that happened at that daycare. If it happened now, he would be like in prison for like decades. It was like so insane to look back at it now, but it was like the best time of everyone's life. Like all the kids loved it. It was just so incredible, and it got me into doing jiu-jitsu. So
yeah, I saw a fighter. Who was it? I think it was what was his name? He was a wrestler. He was having his kids do boxing, and then he got arrested for it. Who was that? I can't remember. It was a big UFC fighter. He was letting his wrestlers box out a match, and they arrested him. So ridiculous.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it's so ridiculous. So like when you started training, I feel like you probably got good right away, because I know I first met you, you were a purple belt.
I was a purple belt. I was probably like 17 or 18.
Yeah, and you were already like, usually at my level, I train a purple belt, it's gonna be like easy. I remember training with you on the first day, and I was like, wow, this guy's good.
Yeah. So the first time that me and Jake actually trained, we were both traumatized because Jake had already trained like hard rounds with Gary and Eddie, and then he went to go train with me, and he had no idea who I was, and I was like tough at the time. Like tougher than he was expecting, because I had like a purple belt rash guard on, and he didn't no one knew who I was at the time. But then I also was traumatized because I had to train with Jake, and I'd never felt the body lock like that. He would just lock his hands, and you just couldn't move him when he locked his hands. So I was like way tougher than he thought. And for me, I was like, oh my God, this is like, it feels like a hydraulic press grabbing you. Then you just can't unlock his hands. So we got some good training in, and then eventually Jake moved to New York, and I guess you moved to New York when it was kind of still okay.
Yeah, it was fun when I was there. Like I was there for about almost 3 years. It was a good time. I was ready for a change, get out of California. I enjoyed New York, but I definitely wouldn't move back. It's falling apart. Plus, that was kind of like, it was such an awesome time for the team you guys were with, like John Danaher, who's a legendary coach, probably, arguably the best jiu-jitsu coach of all time. Phenomenal. There's so many guys. You, Gary Tonin, and then tons of people started moving there, like the Craig Jones, the Nicky Ryans, guys. Nicky Rod. Brother, Nicky Rod, yeah. So all those guys, the team was just insane. Like,
I mean, it was crazy because we had the competitors that were there, but just the guys in the room, like they're just the guys in the room that no one's ever heard of, like Doug and Brian Glick, like they're just like old school John black belts, and like they're like world beaters in the gym. Like
like how Doug is like close to 50, I think, and just a killer.
Yeah.
He would just give me hell rounds. I mean, he can give you tough rounds, I'm sure, even sometimes on a good day.
Not sometimes. Doug almost made me quit jiu-jitsu so many times. There was one time where I came in, and I think I had just gotten my purple belt, and I was like already like submitting black belts in competition as like a blue and purple belt. And I did a round. I was like super tired, and I didn't sleep that well the night before, but I was like on a high because I just won a tournament. I just got my purple belt or whatever it was. And, or maybe I was a blue belt, but I was riding a high note for some reason. And I trained with Doug, and he just submitted me from like bottom guard, like 12 times in the span of like a 6-minute round. And they're just like over and over and over. And I just couldn't figure out how to stop it. And I went out, and I was just like sitting depressed all day. I was like with Gary. Gary's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. And I was like, that was the closest I ever was to quitting jiu-jitsu, is rolling with Doug. The only thing, I swear to God, the only thing that saved me that day was AJ Agazarm came into the gym for the afternoon class, and I trained with AJ, and AJ doesn't tap in training, and I just completely blew his shoulder apart. He like needed, I'm pretty sure he needed shoulder surgery. He was like there to compete in like Pan Ams or something, and I put him in a back triangle, and I cranked the Kimura, and it just blew his shoulder apart, which is perfect because we were working on braking mechanics back then, and AJ was the perfect training partner because he just never taps like an idiot. Yeah. And he's just such a doucher that it was just like no one felt bad for him. And then so I beat up AJ, and I was like, okay, I'm back.
Yeah, it's amazing how dumb AJ is. There was a couple-year period, like every time we saw it, we would like get in a fight, or I would like slap him, but we ended up being kind of cool after a while. After a while, it's just like, I'm sick of fighting this guy. I'm just gonna like, And then he kept trying to be my friend, so I'm like, I guess I'll just be his friend now.
Well, that's the thing, is he's so persistent. It's just like he's always there, and he's like always ready to do whatever you want to do. Like if you want to fight him, he's like, okay, we'll do that. And then but then like if you're like moderately cool, he'll just like kind of he's like the master. There's nobody better than AJ at just like inserting himself into places that he's not supposed to be, and he just like is so insistent on it that people are just like, whatever, let this guy.
That's what happened. Yeah, for a while I got sick of like fighting him. I'm like, this guy is so tough. He's gonna keep fighting me. It's gonna be one of those situations where he has balls at least.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's like an idiot and he sucks, but he's like he will fight. And he's like a winner. Like
he knows how to compete.
Yeah, the amount of skill that AJ has versus the accolades that he actually has is like the discrepancy is so insane. Like he's just so bad at jiu-jitsu, but he's just like doesn't quit, and he like knows how to win. Like now he's like the skill discrepancy is so big because everyone's getting so much better that he can't win anything anymore. But like he like won No-Gi Worlds, he took silver at ADCC, and that was like basically not knowing a single move.
Yeah, and that's like,
but he's just like a winner.
That's like the Olympics of grappling. It's insane they took second there. I agree. And I had a match with him, thought I was just going to tap him easy, and I didn't submit him. I destroyed him, but I never submitted the guy. I had him in so many submissions, chokes, arm triangles.
He'll let everything break. He'll go unconscious. He doesn't tap.
Like, yeah, he's in. That's why after a while, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stop trying to fight with this guy and just become his friend. He's definitely a funny one. So. How are you liking the training in Austin compared to New York?
I mean, there's not as many like high level hobbyists, because like John was like cultivating that room over like a 20-year period.
That's like
so
the best room I've ever been in. Yeah.
So like there's the competitors that we have, like the high level guys who are competing at an ADCC level. It's the best room we've ever had. Like this group of guys, like with Marigali and Giancarlo and Luke, they're better than the last group of guys that we had that left. But the room overall, like with the hobbyists, isn't as high level, and there's not as many people as there was in New York. But I would rather pretty much live anywhere in the world than New York. So I'm very happy living in Texas.
Yeah, it's something I used to always go for the toughest rounds in MMA. I'd always try to get the toughest people. But then John, I noticed, sometimes would tell us, like, oh, go with some easier rounds. And it really made a lot of sense, because if you're always going with the best people, you can't try new stuff.
Yeah. You gotta, and it's just so, like, if you're training twice a day, every day, it's so tiring. Like, you can do it for a few months, you can, like, but do it for 5 years. So just go balls to the wall every round for 2 sessions every day. It's just like, you can't keep up.
Yeah, because a lot of times we had weekend, like, private training where it was, like, only the pros, and then we'd all go with each other and go at it. But during, like, exactly when you're doing two workouts plus weights, if you're battling everything, your body's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. So, yeah, what, out of everyone I've trained with, I think you and John have the most analytical brains of breaking things down. Do you think it's just natural, or do you think it's something you learned from John, or maybe a mix?
Well, John definitely changed the way I thought about jiu-jitsu. Like, when I first met John, I was, like, basically just winning matches because I was, like, athletic, and, like, I was just gritty. I was just like a gritty Jersey kid that, like, wouldn't stop, and I would, like, kind of break people mentally in matches, and, like, I had, like, a good propensity to, like, scramble towards the back and stuff, but I had, like, no real, like, moves or systems. So, like, John kind of just completely changed the way that I just thought about the sport of jiu-jitsu, and that can combine with like, my ability to problem solve and my ability to recall information and remember things. Like, if John, like, John could have taught me a move, like, 5 years ago one time, and I drilled it, like, for a few minutes, and I'll remember that move even if I haven't used it. But he definitely was the main piece of the puzzle for my career, because he completely he changed the way I thought about jiu-jitsu. And even when I invent moves now, like, there's certain positions that that I go beyond his teaching, but it all stems back to him, because he's the one who taught me how to think about jiu-jitsu in this way. So everything really that I do, for the most part, comes from John.
I suspect you'd be a world champion without John, but I don't think you'd be near as good as you are.
Yeah, I agree.
think you still probably would have won worlds, and you'd still be one of the best. But I think probably the level you're at, you're sort of the best of all time now. So
yeah, it would definitely. I would have, possibly accomplished a lot of what I've already accomplished, but I wouldn't be anywhere near as dominant.
Yeah, and he spent a lot of time one-on-one working with you as well.
Yeah.
That's one thing with you. I know you get, like, a ton of online hate, which you think is funny. Obviously, it doesn't bother you at all. We were talking earlier about how online hate's not real. Like, these people are just our fans.
Well, they are fans. Like, I have people come up to me like, "Oh, I'm one of the guys that always gives you shit on Instagram," and I'm like, "Cool, buddy." But it's just like Instagram and reality are, like, the exact opposite. And everyone's like, "Oh, well, Gordon's so fake. Like, he's such a dick online, but he's so nice in person." I'm like, no, I'm the exact same person online as I am in person. It's just that 90% of my interactions online are people attacking me, so I'm always attacking everybody.
Yeah.
100% of my reactions in person are people being nice to me, so I'm nice to them. If someone started attacking me in person, I would also attack them in person, but that's not what happens in person.
Yeah, like you said, it's 100% of the time. I've never had anyone in person. Mine's more on Twitter where people talk shit, but it's like nonstop there. But in person, it's always, they want to come up, pictures. Sometimes they're like, "Can you unblock me?" It's like, well, I probably blocked you for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really block anyone. And, like, the only person I've ever had an issue with in person was Andre Gabal. Yeah.
What happened with that?
That was where I smacked him that one time.
That's right. I remember
that. But that wasn't even like a fan thing. That was just like two competitors, like, we were going to compete, and, like, he kind of came up to me and
he kind of ran up in your face, right? And then you smacked him.
Well, I tried to we were talking shit online, going back and forth, and then Craig was part of the team at the time, so he had just fought Ronaldo Jr. at Who's Number One. So I walked over to Andre and I went to go shake everyone's hand, and Andre gave me the finger, so I just, like, laughed and walked off. And then I had a match against Roberto Jimenez that night, and then I went to go do my interview after, and there was, like, this little kind of corridor that was, like, a dark hallway, basically, between, like, where you were competing and the other side where you went to do the interviews. So I went to go like walk to do my interview, and Andre was there, and he started like cursing at me. He's like, you're a bitch, you're a pussy, blah 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 blah. And I was just like, kind of laughing it off. But I was like, this is kind of like uncharacteristic for Andre because there's no cameras around. Like, it ended up getting recorded, but neither one of us knew there was a guy recording us. So I was like, maybe he's actually upset. So I was like kind of just laughing, and then he's like, because all the Atos guys were like, oh, Gordon's so tough online, but he's super nice in person. And I'm like, yeah, because you guys are nice in person. So I thought that I think that his plan was to like walk up to me and like bitch me out, and then like,
yeah, and then post it.
Yeah,
so.
And then like be like, oh, like see, he's not so tough in person, which backfired because he walked up and he was cursing me out, and I was kind of just laughing it off and walking away. And then he said, why are you running? So I'm like, oh, well, now I got to turn around. So I turned around, and then he walked up and he got in my face and he pushed me. So I was like, okay, like I guess we're gonna fight. There's nothing else you can do before a fight. So I smacked him in the mouth, and he kind of like got wobbled, and then he backed up, and I started walking towards him, and I was like, come on, like, you want to fight? Let's fight. And he backed up, so I walked away, and he started following me again. So I turned around, I'm like, I'm right here. So I smacked him again, and then he didn't do anything, so I walked away.
Yeah.
And I walked to go do the interview, and then he came out, and he was like, oh, you're so tough now, everyone's here, like now you're gonna be a tough guy. And I'm like, I just fucking smacked you in the mouth. And they recorded it. He didn't know they recorded it. And so that was like, that like blew up in the whole
Yeah, I remember that.
community.
He got a lot of shit from that.
Yeah.
A lot of Brazilians were making fun of him even because he was acting like he was tough, came up, and he did professional MMA fights, and you didn't.
Yeah, he fought Tyron Woodley. Like, he fought like a lot of good guys in MMA.
I think that was a close fight too, wasn't it? I think Tyron won, but I think he gave him a good fight.
Yeah, I think he ended up beating him by TKO. But it was back and forth for a little bit, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, he fought some good guys.
And so then that was a whole big thing, and then we competed, and then we kind of made up. And like, I was never mad at Andre. I was just like, if you want to fight, let's fight. Like, I have nothing personal against. I never had anything personal against Andre. I kind of just had to keep it going because I wanted to get into his head a little bit, and he was like so tense leading up to it. But then after the match, I was like, oh yeah, like, I literally have never had a problem with you.
Interesting. Because he was trying not to do the match for a minute, right? It was acting ridiculous amounts of money.
Well, he wanted $1 million to do it, I think, is what the thing was. And they're just like no, like, it's like, it was like 40 at the time. ADCC was like 40 grand for the winner and 10 grand for the loser. And he was doing that for like the last decade, and then he just went from that to $1 million. And like, they're like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of money, I think you're probably the first jiu-jitsu athlete to become a multi-millionaire, not including like gyms and stuff.
Yeah, because, when I was even coming up, definitely when you were coming up, it was either you just won a world championship, and then you went to go fight MMA, or you opened up a school. And now, you have guys who are you can make 6 figures a year with sponsorships. You can make, 6 to 7 figures a year competing. You have instructionals that you can make, 6, 7 figures a year with. So, all of it kind of combined, you can live it's kind of bittersweet because you can't really live like a real professional athlete lifestyle. Like, it's hard to, really go out for most guys and like, buy Lamborghinis and buy a $15 million house and stuff like that. But it's you can live a good life now compared to like your average person.
And before it wasn't like that.
Yeah,
so
before like basically every jiu-jitsu guy was just like a poor sack of shit.
Yeah,
and like couldn't even afford to eat food basically.
Exactly. Now there's probably a lot of guys making at least like more than average salary or average. And before that was like, we were all just so poor training.
Yeah, like, I mean, even when I was coming up, I had like one EBI. I remember it was like $2,500 a month just to get into the city to train, with taxes and parking and gas and tolls. So I would just win an EBI, and then like we would take, that 10 to 20 grand, depending on how many submissions you got. And I would just take that money from EBI, and that would be like my money to get into the city to like, that I would just reinvest that into training and getting to the city until the next EBI.
This is actually something really interesting. I think you should explain. You and Gary used to drive in. How far did you guys drive every day to New York?
New York, it was like 70 miles, and then we would teach in Jersey, so it ended up being like 1,000 miles a week we would drive.
Yeah, so you ended up being like more than 2 hours you guys would drive in, right?
Oh yeah, it would be anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours each way, because it was coming into the morning class and then leaving after the afternoon class. So it was rush hour through the Lincoln Tunnel and then rush hour back. And we had like 5 guys with us who had no money, so it didn't really make sense to take the train. So we all carpooled in.
Yeah,
and I mean that was miserable. Everyone complains about the traffic in Austin. I'm like, it's not the Lincoln Tunnel. I have no problem with this.
But it just shows you did that for years. It shows if you really want something, the dedication. People make so many excuses in life why they can't make it. But if you really want something, you're going to do it. You know, like I said, you're going to drive 3 hours each way. You guys would stay there all day. You'd get the gym. It was like 7:30. We'd get there, train, eat lunch, nap on the mats, you know, train again. And then Gary would usually go do sparring after that. It just shows if you really want something, you make it happen.
Yeah.
People have so many freaking excuses.
Yeah. I think it's actually Bill Gates who had a really good quote. He said that most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. Like, you can do, like, you can't do anything in a short amount of time. Like, especially in jiu-jitsu, like, you're doing it, you know, you have to commit yourself to jiu-jitsu for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years without getting paid a dime, without any notoriety. Like, you just have to suffer for a good amount of time before you get any return on investment.
100% true. You know, I came up the same way, making no money, but I just loved it. And I was in my mind, I knew I was going to do it. There was never any doubt in my mind. Everyone else is like, oh, you're crazy. You're not making money doing this. But I was just so dedicated. I just trained and trained. And it's not, like I said, you're not going to get great in 1 year. In your own head, you might start thinking like I'm getting pretty good now. But then you look back and you're like, oh, I sucked last year.
Yeah.
Like every year you make a little better. And, you know, your progress was insanely fast, but it was still like, you know, 5, 6 years to get like, before you got really, really good. Probably 5 years or so when you really started smashing everyone.
Yeah, it was like, I got my black belt in 5 years, and it was like the transition from brown belt. I won No-Gi Worlds at brown belt, and then that transition from brown belt to black belt is kind of where I started putting, I had like moves here and there, and then I had like John's systems, but then when I started like taking the systems and overlapping them with like subsequent systems, was when I really started to kill people. And that's also when I started training full-time with John. Like I had enough money saved where I could kind of just get to the city, like just scratch by getting to the city, and getting my training done. And then I was like making $1,000 here and there for, you know, different competitions. Like, you know, back even, you know, you're more of an OG than I am, but you know, even when I was competing, it was like you wanted to make $1,000. You had to like win a grappler's quest, like absolute, with like 3 ADCC champions in it,
exactly.
and it was like $1,000 prize. Like it was like it was super hard to like make money. But then, you know, finally I got to a point where, you know, I had enough money saved from working. I worked as a garbage man, like 40 hours a week, and went to college and trained at night. And then I finally had enough money saved to where I could do jiu-jitsu, and then I'd make $500 here, $1,500 there, $2,000 there, and then I kind of just, and then I won the EBI. I made 25 grand, and then that was like more money that I made an entire year working as like a garbage man, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. I'm rich now.
It feels really good when you start making enough to get by just to train full time, which is, looking back, is like, you know, poverty. But when you get 25 grand when you're just trying to get by to train, that's like amazing. Yeah. That's how I was. My first fights, I'm like, oh, I'm getting like 20 grand a fight now, which is still nothing, but it was better than I was getting $1,000 a fight. Yeah. So you think it's money at the time, you're like, oh, I can live now and just train full time. Being able to train full time is
just being able to like reinvest and like even just to like be able to like buy good food to eat, like, and just like eat properly is like a big thing. Like when, you know, I went from like eating gas station food that was like cheap and like fast food to like, oh, I can actually like buy steaks and like, you know, eat properly now. Yeah.
Does Gary still eat gas station food? He's like the worst diet I've ever seen.
Gary Tonin literally lives on gas station food.
He's in such good shape.
I think he's maybe doing a little bit better now, but I remember one time he was like, I'm too addicted to caffeine. So he goes to start cutting down on caffeine. And he's like, you know, I'm not going to have like 6 Monsters a day or whatever he was drinking. He's like, I'm just going to try to wean off of it. I'm going to start drinking Mountain Dew, because Mountain Dew has like a little bit of caffeine, and it tastes good, but it's like not crazy. So, what he ended up doing was he still needed the same amount of caffeine, but he was just drinking it in Mountain Dew. So he was drinking like two of those like 64-ounce bottles of Mountain Dew a day for like 3 weeks, and just ingesting the same amount of caffeine that he would normally do, but just through Mountain Dew. And he got like terrible gastritis. Like his whole stomach lining was inflamed, and he was like throwing up and like dry heaving when he would try to do the sessions. And he went to the doctor, and he's like, yeah, I've been drinking like massive amounts of Mountain Dew. And they're like, that's why he should stop doing that. And
Probably
then
a good idea.
Yeah. And then that's the only thing I've ever seen mess him up. Like he
Yeah, he's just
He's
great.
like, the thing with Gary is he's like impervious to illness, but whenever he does get sick, he like almost dies every time. Like he never gets staph, he never gets ringworm, but like if he gets a staph infection, he'll be in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Interesting. Yeah, no, the guy is just, he just seems to just keep going.
Yeah.
And yeah, the guy works insanely hard, 7 days a week, multi-hours, and then for a while he's going back and running a school after that. I'm like, how's this guy not run out of energy?
Yeah. I mean, we were saying the same thing about you. We're like, you know, Jake, you were like in your 40s at the time, right? When you were training with us.
Yeah, like 40 or so when I was out there. Yeah, but that's true.
And he was like doing all this. We were like in an ADCC camp, and Jake is like there for every single session. We're like,
yeah,
who's this guy?
This is me basically retired, and I'm still going in like 7 days a week. I just, I love training. I'm like I'm a martial artist. To me, I love it. I'm always learning. I'm still trying to learn. Lately, I haven't been training as hard as I used to, but I still try to learn new stuff. I need to come out to Austin still and train with you and John again, because it's get some guys that you guys are always in the cutting edge, new stuff. So
yeah, have to be. Got to stay ahead of the curve.
Which it's so much easier to do that when you have a bunch of other people around watching tape with you. When you're by yourself or guys not as innovative, it's a lot harder when you're the only one trying to innovate. Which that's what's so amazing about having those rooms when it's such great training like that.
Yeah, when you have like a group of brains, it's a lot easier to get stuff done than when you're just trying to do it yourself. And like John is just like literally having a cheat code. Like it's like you ask John any question about not even jiu-jitsu. You ask him any question about any martial art. You ask him a striking question, you ask him a judo question, a wrestling question, and he has an exact answer and and the why of like why you should do this and not that.
Yeah, he's the only guy. There's a lot of guys that'll ask a question, they'll give you an answer. He's the only guy I've asked a question that's given me a really good answer that makes sense and why to martial arts questions. Yeah. It's insane.
If he doesn't know why you should be doing this, he just won't even answer it. He'll just be like, "Good question. I don't know. I don't know." Like he's not a bullshitter.
It's so rare he says that though, and he can break down. Like, I think maybe heard him say that once or twice, but yeah, he's honest, and he can even break down. Like you could be like, what is a certain boxer? You can ask about a boxer, and odds are he'll know him, or an Iranian wrestler. It's insane his martial arts knowledge.
Yep. I mean, I've watched him teach like judo world team members and Olympian judo. Like I've watched like, guys who are on the world team for judo come up and ask John a question about judo. Like it's so insane the amount of knowledge that he has. Like we're doing a podcast right now and he's like either teaching class or watching tape. It's just like that's all he does. Yeah, it's all he does. Like the times when we traveled, we'd be traveling the country, we'd get dinner, and then we'd be out, we want to hang out and do something. John's like, I gotta go watch tape in the room. Yeah. Just watching tape. We'll be in an airport and he'll be like watching a black and white boxing match. And I'm just like, it's like he's like the closest person, not even just on jiu-jitsu, because anytime I see him, he's always just like studying martial arts. Yeah. But with any subject, you can ask him like a question about anything. He's like the closest person to Google I've ever found. Like he just knows everything about every subject. It's insane. I would agree. The guy's like one of the smartest guys I've ever talked to. Definitely someone I want to get in this podcast soon because he's truly an interesting individual. Definitely a little different and strange, but he's just so intelligent. When we go on podcasts together, like we went on like Lex together, and Lex will like ask a question to like it was like I think it was me, George, and him, and he'll ask a question and it'll be for all three of us, and John will answer the question first, and I'm like, how am I supposed to compete with that? I'm like, you got to ask me a different question than John. There's no way I can articulate an answer that's even close to what John just said. Just go with that answer. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, it's anything too, not just jiu-jitsu. Like all these off topics, he would just have crazy answers. Yeah. I asked him a question the other day about something, and he didn't know, and he was like so upset with himself that he didn't know. I think it was like because we were in Vegas for ADCC, and I think it was like, what states does the Colorado River run through? And he's like, I don't know. I must research that later. And he was like so upset about it, and he like looked it up, and then he's like, oh, this, whatever states. Yeah, I would have known Colorado. That's it. I think it runs into Vegas, and it's like I think it's like 4 or 5 different states. Yeah, that's what feeds the dam here. Yeah, so I should know, but I don't. I think it goes to Utah, a few places. So switching up real quick, let's jump into what people probably the match people want to see the most right now is probably you and Nicky Rodriguez. I mean, let's like, what's your thoughts on Nicky, that match? I know you guys, if people don't know, you guys had bad blood for quite a bit. Well, I mean, I've already beaten him twice. I submitted him once, and he called me out because after he won that thing, and he like wanted to try to call my bluff because I tell Nicky Rod like twice a year, like on WhatsApp, he'll post something and I'll be like, hey, we can just fist fight if you want. And then he's just like, I don't want any part of that. So he called me out, and I told him previously, like on a direct like WhatsApp message, like I'm not going to acknowledge your existence ever again. Like, unless you want a fist fight in the parking lot until one of us is dead, I'm not talking about you. So, of course, he, like, wanted to call me out and make it like I was afraid of him.
A big public thing.
So I was just like, I'm going to say this once. So I said, if we're going to compete, this is what it's going to be. You let me know. If you don't let me know, I'm not talking about you anymore. And, of course, I called his bluff, and he hasn't responded.
Oh, so he hasn't responded. He called you out for $1 million match. And
he called me out. I agreed. He's like, oh, call me out. We're going to, bet $1 million, and we're going to do it on B Team YouTube channel. And I was like, you're a fucking loser, and you don't make any of the rules. If you want to fight me, it's going to be how I want to fight, because I'm the guy. You're not the guy.
Yeah, that's true. You're the A list right now.
I've won in every rule set. I've won every tournament. Like, you've never even... What have you won? Like, you won an EBI, you won a CJI in the first year. And the one thing that people don't talk about is everyone's looking at his CJI performance. If you look at who he fought in the the minus 80 was a really stacked division. The plus 80, he fought Adam Bradley and he fought Felipe Andrew in the semifinals and the finals. Adam Bradley is a guy who couldn't even win the trials to get to ADCC. And Felipe Andrew is a guy who had competed at ADCC and he got submitted first round. Like, he fought two guys who couldn't make it to ADCC or couldn't make it out of the first day at ADCC. And everyone's like, this guy's a second coming of Christ. And I'm just like, no, you people are fucking idiots.
That's an excellent point, that the lighter version was stacked as CGI, but the upper division wasn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was really just Victor Hugo and Rod. And then Victor Hugo was the favorite because Victor Hugo's beat Rod 3 out of 3 times. He's like got his number, and Nicky Rod's a confidence fighter, so once he gets beat, guys get in his head, and then he'll never be able to deal with Victor Hugo. But then Victor Hugo just got heel hooked by like a random little guy, like in the second round, I think. And then I was like, oh yeah, Rod will win now.
How did you guys first get bad blood? Because I remember in the gym, I've watched you pretty much train Nicky Rod for like 2 years or something. Probably you were, as much as John, I felt like you really put a lot of time into teaching him. So it was kind of weird watching you help him evolve. And I actually I'm cool with Nicky. You don't want to bash him, but I saw him in an interview say that you never really helped him. And with my own eyes, I literally watched you pretty much train him, spend like so much time after training, giving him like free privates, which at the time you probably easily could have charged $1,000.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it. Like when the team split, we had like this internal agreement that like, we wanted to, remain publicly cordial. And, I think it's stupid to like air like family drama publicly because what is it, like Keeping Up with the Kardashians? Like, it's like when AOJ and Atto split, they're like, we're splitting, but everything's cool. So I was like, okay. So then Rod just goes out and just starts doing like interviews, like just blatantly lying, saying that like it used to make me quit in training and that I never taught him anything and all this shit. And it's just that he, used to beat me up. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, you've never won a single minute of a single round in a competitive match that we've had ever. And the entire time that we've trained. So I waited a full year. Like, him and Craig both were going off. And I was like, honor the agreement. Like, I don't want to, and then finally, like one day I just snapped. Like, he went on like a tirade about me being on steroids. I'm like, bro, you literally used to ask me for steroid advice. Like, now he looks like he's actually natural, which it makes sense because, that he would be natural because he was trying to have a kid. But dude, remember how big he was in New York? He was like a shredded 250 with like cock veins coming out of like every part of his arm. Yeah. And it's just like, it wasn't even like a tangible thought that he could be remotely natural. It was like so insane.
I don't want to make accusations, but the dude put on a lot of weight, and like all those guys are pretty damn ripped. So to be bashing someone for steroids is pretty ridiculous, especially in a sport where there's no testing.
And it's legal.
Yeah.
And everyone on your team is on steroids.
Yeah, it's one of those things no one really talks about, but in grappling at the elite level, pretty much everyone is, But it's one of those things with the sport, if it allows it, why not? It's not really cheating if everyone's doing it.
Yeah, and, like when he left, I messaged him because when, him and Craig both were really like in my weight classes when I left them on the team. Like, me and him kind of, when he showed up, we were both like 220-ish, and we could have either went, to plus or minus 99. And then he got way bigger. But him and when Craig came, I just competed against Craig at 88 kilos. So Craig was in the same weight class. So the only two reasons that those guys ever got to the team was because I allowed it. Like John's like, you may end up competing against these guys, at ADCC. What do you think? And I'm like, well, if those guys can come to the team and think that they can get better than me, or they get better than me, then they deserve the spot. Like, it's a merit-based system. Like, if whoever's the best deserves a spot. So for me, it was never an issue because I'm like, yeah, come to the team. Like, good luck getting better than me.
Yeah.
And so, I helped, those guys for years, like you said. And then, when they left, I kind of messaged Nicky Rod and I'm like, hey, I don't have a problem with you. I'm like, I fucking, help build your career. And I think that, you should show some fucking loyalty and, stay with us. And if you're a serious athlete and you want to be the best in the world, you should train under John. But, if you want to fucking leave. And he's such a pussy. He never even responded to my message. Like, he never said thank you. He never said fuck you. He's the biggest fucking pussy of all time. And I just don't respect that. Like, if you're gonna leave, either say thank you. You've helped me. Like, you brought me to the team. You let me train there for free. Like, I've got them sponsors. I've got them paid. I helped them with negotiations for fights. And then when he left, he just didn't say anything. It was no thank you. There was no fuck you. It's like be direct at least.
Yeah. At least say either thank you or fuck off. I don't like you.
Yeah.
It is weird just to not answer after. Like I said, I watched my own eyes. I watched you train the guy.
Yeah. And everyone, every old school guy like you, understands that.
Yeah.
But these fucking kids of this generation they don't get it, and it's just so insane to me.
Yeah, that's what I respect about you and Gary and stuff. You guys, you have a bad rep online, but you're always so respectful to me. Like all the OG guys that are black belts before you still treat like OGs and stuff. You understand
there's a hierarchy. It's just because you start getting good or start getting famous, or even if there's always going to be a time where the people who you looked up to, like if you're progressing like you should, the people who are your idols, you should be able to eventually beat those guys up, as they get older. But it doesn't mean that you're just a fucking cocksucker because you can beat them up. You and Doug and Brian Glick and George, if we grapple, I'm obviously gonna get the better of it, but those you are the guys who taught me coming up. So my loyalty is always going to be to you guys because you were the guys who fucking helped me get to where I am now. And the fact that this generation just forgets where they came from immediately the second they get an ounce of fame is just it's the most insane thing ever.
Yeah, no, because 100%. You still even once you started getting better than us, you still treated us all like your seniors. It's a perfect example of these guys not better than you, but they kind of ditch out and basically say go fuck yourself, which is kind of weird. Again, I'm cool with all these guys. I don't want to say anything bad about them, but I've always been closer to you, John, Gary. I thought it was really strange how almost everyone went with the B team when the team split. The majority of the top guys, other than the very best, all switched to the B team.
Well, yeah. I think it was. I mean, if you look at basically what they have now, it's basically just a frat house where they all just kind of have fun. Craig hasn't been to the gym in a year and a half. I don't even know how that works.
He's doing matches with women now.
Yeah. And Nicky Rod is willing to do hard work. Ethan's willing to do hard physical work, but they're just both so dumb that they don't really get any better. They just kind of get more physical and more intuitive. But to have John a drill sergeant, and John's not you got to be there every day, but the fact that John's presence, John's there every day, so his presence,
he'll know if you're not there.
It's constantly
He won't say anything to you, but you'll know he knows because he knows everything. He always knows everything that's going on. There'll be 10 matches at once, and he's watching all 10 of them. Is what's crazy.
Yeah. So I think that they have when they left, Craig's whole brand is based on being a loser. They had the B team thing. So I think that, those guys kind of want to just have a laid back life and have more fun than anything. Which is fine. That's fine with me. But what's fun for me is winning. So I want to train with John and I want to win. That's my whole thing. I don't want to be a clown who has fun that does funny stuff on Instagram. I want to leave a legacy when I die. That's my prerogative.
Yeah, that seems like a no-brainer. That's why I was surprised that so many guys switched over. And again, like I said, I'm cool with all those guys. Not going to bash any of them, but it just seemed like the split was weird. Remember what happened? I was never really given a good answer too. I went over there, trained, and tried. I'm like, oh, so why don't you guys like Gordon? And it was just it was always a different reason, but nothing was that clear. So I'm just all right.
Well, Craig's whole thing is that if he can't beat you, if he can't beat something or like win at something, he'll just try to destroy it. Like he couldn't beat me, so he joined the team and then he broke the team up. Like he couldn't win ADCC, so he tried to crush ADCC. He's just like a very vindictive. Like Craig's like Instagram persona is the exact opposite of what Craig is in real life.
Yeah, the joking around and all that. Like even I trained with Craig, I never really hung out with him that much outside of the mat. So, but yeah, no, the team, like you can see the results.
This is going to be I promise I wasn't going to talk about any of these people, and Jake fucking sprung
We'll
on me.
switch it up. Sorry.
This is going to be like the internet's going to explode, and I'm just going to be sitting here like I didn't even want to do this.
Now I feel bad, but oh well. We'll get some good shit talking on there. I'm gonna get caught up in too. Like I said, I'm so cool with all these guys. They're probably gonna hate me, but like I said, I've always been closer to you and fucking Gary and John. I don't dislike any of those guys. I just thought the whole split was kind of weird and didn't like it. But yes, let's switch up to different topics. Something else. We talked about them for enough.
This is gonna I'm gonna like have to be dealing with this all week now.
Right.
I should have told him before. Like I don't want to talk about the B
Right.
team, and then I was like, oh
fuck. So yeah, let's switch it up. Mikey.
Oh my god, Mikey! I don't know. Mikey just attacked me. I was
that's weird,
the only thing
right?
I've
Yeah, I
ever
like
done
Mikey.
is like talk highly of Mikey, and then he's just like talking about the thing about Mikey. The thing about Mikey is Mikey will be like, if you take steroids, he's like been doing passive aggressive shots to me forever. But the thing about Mikey is like he'll make one post that's like, hey, if you take steroids, like you're mentally weak, like you're too weak, and it's just you need like a crutch and you need an out, blah 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 blah. So he'll talk about like if you use steroids that you're mentally weak, and then like his very next post will be like, I'm depressed and I'm sad and like we really need to like talk about mental. It's just like, bro, just fucking do your thing and leave everybody else
Right.
alone.
This guy is good though. It's crazy. He's this little. People don't know. He's this little. Looks like a little nerdy glasses, and he's 145 pounds or something. 150.
Something like that.
145.
Yeah, I think he actually competes lighter. I think he competes like 135.
Yeah, and just so good.
Except for he just missed weight, but at least he doesn't look like he's 40.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it was a weird thing. 'Cause I thought you guys got along, but I don't think it's. He's just a little strange, but certainly a talented kid.
No, yeah, he's definitely tough. He's kind of just like. I mean, he fights like a tough guy here and there at one, but he's basically just like can crushing at one now.
That's
So
a great point. He's never done ADCC.
no,
I was wondering
he's
why
been
never
invited
done
3 or
that.
4 times, but he's just never done it. Which, and he can say that it's because the weight class doesn't fit him. Like he's it's 66 kilos, so it's 145, which is like big for him. Especially guys are cutting down to 145, and I don't even think that he really walks around. I think he walks around that or a little bit lighter. But you're competing in at absolute divisions at IBJJF. So you're fighting guys who are like 230, 240 pounds. Like he fought Muhammad Ali, who was like 265 pounds one year when he did ADCC.
It was a good match too.
Yeah, and he fought Muhammad Ali in an absolute. So it's like if you're going to do IBJJF absolutes, like do fucking ADCC. Like that's where all the best guys are. Don't make an excuse like, oh, it's not my weight class. You do open weights.
Yeah, I think after you, he's probably the best jiu-jitsu guy, or one of the best, but he doesn't do the same kind of competition, so it's hard to give him the same kind of respect.
I mean, he's won worlds, I think 5 times.
Okay.
Like he won, the gi worlds.
yeah.
I think he won the gi worlds 3 times, and then no gi worlds twice. But I'm not 100% sure on that. But he's definitely won no gi worlds and worlds, a combination, I think, of 5 times. So I mean, he's definitely one of the most credentialed guys, and definitely one of the most credentialed Americans ever. But he's, if you want to be taken seriously, in my opinion, you got to win ADCC.
No, I agree, and I think that's why. Even though I think he is one of the greatest right now, I think not doing ADCC is probably not the smartest move.
Yeah, I think he should have done it. But whatever. I don't have a problem with Mikey. Mikey just attacked me, so
Yeah, that's what I thought. 'Cause I thought you guys got along. And it's kind of weird when someone
I
you
don't,
like
I
attacks
don't,
you, right?
People like take this shit so personal. Like it's very simple. If you attack me, I'll attack you. I have. If you see me and you want to fight, let's fight.
Yeah, right.
I have nothing against any of these people, besides the B team guys, because they're all like backstabbing cockroaches.
Yeah.
Like they actually fucked me. Like Mikey's just like a little rat that like talk shit. I don't know.
Yeah, you're the biggest names. People are going to take shots. I think it's just you have to be able to accept that and not take it personal, which you do. Is there any up and coming grapplers you're looking at that might not be known yet or slightly known?
I mean, there's that little kid, Daniel Galvao, who was at ADCC. He like did the little youth championship before, and he's got like a real cool personality. He's from Brazil. He's already got like 250,000 followers.
Oh wow!
And he's like, I don't know how old he is. He looks like he's like 8. He's like a small little kid, but he's like jacked and he's got like abs. And he's just like beating up all the other little kids, and he's like super personable. So I think he's gonna be a kid who we're gonna see. There's this kid, I think he trains at AOJ. His name's Ikaru. He is like he's like a star. Like when you talk to him, like he talks to you like he reminds me of like Jason Momoa's personality. Like he's larger than life, and like he's always laughing and smiling, and he's loud, and he like makes you feel like you're awesome. And I'm like, how old are you, kid? And he's crushing it now. He's got a ton of followers. There's a lot of little kids that are, you watch the little kids do jiu-jitsu and you're like, this is going to be bad in 10 years.
Yeah, there's this girl you guys have training who's a phenom. I think she's like a teenager.
Yeah, Helena.
Yeah.
So Helena just took silver at ADCC. She's the youngest competitor ever to make the finals at ADCC. She lost by points to Ana Vieira, Adolfo's sister. But she is so talented, it's so insane, and it's messed up because like you can't get your brown belt until you're 18 and your black belt until 19 for IBJJF. So she took silver at blue belt. John gave her a purple belt. So like now she has to go, and she's still 17, so she can still compete in the teens divisions.
Oh Jesus!
Like for these random
This is
tournaments.
not even fair.
So like she took silver at ADCC, but then she like goes to a tournament, and they make her do like teen purple belt.
Jesus,
so she's fighting like 16 and 17-year-olds at purple belt after she just like took silver. So she goes into like these random tournaments and she just like submits people in 30 seconds.
Yeah, just too easy.
But training with her is like training with a man. You have to take her seriously, otherwise she like will break your leg. Like she will strangle you. She will like pass your guard. Like her grips are so sticky. She's so isometrically strong. She's so well positioned. It's like an actual hard match to deal with her. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've never trained with her, but when a girl makes you work hard, it's like frustrating. You're like, oh shit.
It was funny one day. I always make fun of Gary for not being able to pass guard because Gary's like never been a guy who like really put effort into like learning how to pass people's guards. And I was making fun of him one day for passing for not being able to pass guard, and he's like actually I did pass someone's guard today. And he's like, oh, but this is going to sound so bad, but it's not at the same time. He's like, I passed Elena's guard. And I'm just like, we all started laughing because it's like, okay, so like you pass a 17-year-old girl's guard, but at the same time, her guard is so hard to pass that it's actually impressive. So we both just started laughing about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think guard passing, I think you probably have the best guard passing in the world. You mix the passing so well between like the low passing I do, but you have that kind of floating system that I think you kind of created that, or did John create that?
Yeah,
or,
it's kind of a mix of, obviously there was like leg pommeling and stuff, but like I created kind of like a system to floating by the legs. And one thing that no one ever talks about me, that no one ever mentions about me, which is actually the foundation of my passing game, is that I can hold people down. Like there's no jiu-jitsu guys that can hold anybody down. That's why when guys go to MMA, they're used to just playing cagey, and then they take a guy down, they have no idea how to hold him down. Like when I put guys down, like they'd never get up. Like when I got on top of Andre, he like fought for his life to get up, and he never was able to get up.
No, that's true, because most MMA, I'm pretty good at getting to my feet, so usually jiu-jitsu guys take me down, I'm like, no problem. But you keep the pressure, you ride. Even when you do the up passage, you keep like head over head, so you can't stand up. A lot of guys don't understand that concept.
You're actually the reason why I got good at that, because I was training with Jake for 2017 ADCC camp, and we were doing closed guard rounds, like our specific training. And up until that point, I hadn't really trained with many MMA guys. It was like I would train with George, but George like wants to do jiu-jitsu when he comes in to train. So he would always stay at bottom position. Every time I would go with Jake from closed guard, he'd unlock his legs, he'd push on my hips, and he would just stand up. And I was getting so upset. Like every time it would be like, okay, we have a war, I'm on bottom, and then like either he passes my guard or I sweep him, whatever the case is. Then the second I get on top, boom, he explodes out, and 3 seconds later he's standing up. And I was just, I wanted to kill myself. So finally, I'm like, I go over to John after one of the sessions, and I'm like, dude, I need to fucking be able to hold people. How the fuck can I hold this guy down? And then John started teaching me. He's like, okay, like you have to split the legs and you get to these positions. And he kind of cultivated that ability for me. And now I can hold people down. So
Yeah. No,
Jake is the reason for that. So
well, I don't know. I didn't know why you got so good at it, but that's good. I'm glad I helped.
yeah, the reason for everyone getting crushed underneath me when you compete, you guys can thank Jake Shields.
Right. Because remember, I used to be able to get up, and all of a sudden you stop me. I'm just like, damn it, he's figuring it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, you do a good job of like floating, and then you drop down to the body lock passing, and you mix it perfect.
Yeah. Once you get control of the hips or the head and shoulders, then it's like kind of a done deal. Or it should be.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. And a lot of guys are all good at, they're good at one or the other. They're good at the floating passing or the body lock passing. Most guys aren't good at both.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's
you gotta be good at both, because like a lot of times you can't get chest to chest. You can't get a body lock, so you have to like threaten Toriandos and then use the Toriandos to get into half guard chest to chest, or use the Toriandos to get them to open up and then go into your body lock. So you got to kind of get creative and combine everything when the guys start getting higher and higher level.
Yeah, no, training with you, because I've always been really good at the body lock passing, which for MMA, that's the best kind of passing. Guys can't get up, but I started working a lot more. They're trying to mix that floating passing in, the feeding the feet over, all the stuff you do.
Because you can still hold them down, and you can chain the heavy hands, like you can post your hands on the floor and you can pummel your legs, but you can also sit back and start punching people.
Exactly.
Whereas if you have body locks, you can control them really well, but you can't really do damage until you unlock your hands.
The problem with some passing for jiu-jitsu, the guys could just stand up if you start running around, and that's what when we're doing the way John does it. If you stand up, it counts as a win. So it's like that passing doesn't really work for that game.
Yeah, that's been a big thing, because my whole thing is my entire career guys are trying to stall against me because they know I'm so dangerous. So eventually I would just like, let me just put him on bottom, because you can't stall from bottom. Yeah. So it's either, pull guard, get on top, or take the guy down, and now there's no stalling. Now you have to engage.
That's an excellent point. A lot of your matches, guys aren't really trying to win. They're just trying to survive.
Yeah, they're trying to not lose.
Yeah, and you still have such a high submission rate.
Yeah.
You had some matches where you even wrote down what you were going to submit them with before.
Yeah, we had a few of those. We did, I did it with Roberto. I said I was going to armbar him, and I mounted armbar. Hit a mounted armbar. I did it with Wagner. He was number 1 ranked in the world at his weight class at the time. I put a triangle in an envelope, said I was going to do triangle. Did it to Patrick Gaudio with the armbar. I did it to Halleck Gracie. I actually had a bet with a buddy of mine. It was a $4,000 bet when I fought Halleck that I couldn't. He said submit him between 10 and 12 minutes with an armbar or a triangle, and I'll give you an extra $4,000. And I'm like, I'll do it between 10 and 11. And I finished him with a triangle in 10.5 minutes.
Perfect. That's crazy. No. So we'll finish up in a few minutes, but let's go through all this time winning all these worlds. You've had, or not the whole time, but for the last several years, you've had some pretty serious stomach illness.
Yeah.
So when did that start?
So that started when I was taking antibiotics for staph infection in 2018. So like the first half of 2018.
It's been a while. So this is through all your peak. You've been going through this.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yep.
You've been doing this
pretty much since I...
And barely bitched about it, Being around you, hardly even bitched about it. I would sometimes see you in the corner, like, suffering.
Yeah. So I had a staph infection, and I took Bactrim. And then I got better. I was on Bactrim for like 2 weeks, and then I trained for a few days. I got staph again, and then I went on Bactrim a second time for 2 weeks. And like the 10th day of the Bactrim, I took it and I got super nauseous, and I've been nauseous ever since. So what happened is the Bactrim kind of like wiped my stomach out, and then a lot of your immune system function is controlled by your stomach. So my stomach got wiped out. My immune system was trying to re-regulate my stomach. So my immune system was suppressed. Then I would get staph again, and then I would take more antibiotics, and then it would crash my stomach, and then it would mess my immune system up, and then I would get staph again. And so for like 2018, I was probably on antibiotics for like 200 days out of the year.
Oh, damn.
It was just like, it was insane. I would train for like 2 days, be on antibiotics for 1 to 2 weeks, depending on how bad the staph was, train for 2 days, staph again. And it was like every 2 weeks, I would be like on antibiotics, 2 days, staph. The only thing that stopped me from getting staph, like I was just like, this is like so insane. Like I couldn't even train, and my stomach was just so bad. The only thing that stopped me from getting staph was after every rolling session, I would use Hibiclens. It's that soap that you can buy it at CVS, but it's a soap that the doctors use before surgery. It's like basically alcohol, like kills everything. So I would use that after I would train, and there was a period of time when my stomach was so bad that if I would just step on the mats, like even if I wasn't training, and I would just go and sit by John to like watch class, if I didn't use Hibiclens after I was on the mats, I was guaranteed to get staph.
Dang, that's so crazy.
And then my stomach started getting a little better, and then that kind of, you know, the staph kind of subsided. And, you know, it was a problem for years, and no one could figure it. GI doctors, you know, and, you know, as a whole are pretty useless. Like
most doctors are pretty useless.
Yeah. But especially stomach doctors, they just have no idea what's going on in the stomach. So they do like, you know, standard blood work. They do, you know, an endoscopy, maybe a colonoscopy, and they send you on your way. They're like, you're fine. I finally found this holistic guy who also does Western medicine. His name is Dr. Rabar. He's out of Los Angeles. Actually, Mo introduced me to him because Mo had H. pylori in it. He was like, in the hospital for it like a bunch of times, and he finally found this guy. And this guy, he did a really good job of figuring out like what was wrong with me. Like when he first did the tests, my stomach was so bad that I had leaky gut so bad because my intestines were inflamed, that my kidneys were actually starting to shut down because of all the acidity in my blood. And that was like right after I fought Wagner. So like,
so you're winning these matches, like seriously ill.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take like a leave of absence and try to get this sorted out. And then my stomach, he put me in this program. My stomach started getting really good. It started getting a lot better. And then after 2022 ADCC, I had that fight that I was supposed to do with Penna, where I got like a stomach bug, and I couldn't do that. And then I went to Abu Dhabi and Kazakhstan. I got back. I got strep throat, and it was like some crazy antibiotic-resistant strep throat. And I was on antibiotics for that for 45 days. I couldn't get rid of it. It like colonized my tonsils. I had to get my tonsils removed. I got a deviated septum fixed. I was out for like 6 months for that. And then I came back. I did the match with Patrick Gaudio, and then my stomach crashed again because like the I guess the bacteria and like fungi imbalance was like getting worse as we were going. So my stomach crashed again, and then it's been shit since.
So it's still not, at Abu Dhabi you said it wasn't good, which you just went and won 2 super fights. By the way, no one else has ever done 2 super fights, correct?
No.
Sure no one else has also done super fight and done the tournament, but you still, won your matches.
Yeah. Well, Felipe did the super fight and the tournament this year, but I was the first one to do it last year. Yeah, I mean, for this ADCC, we do an official 12-week camp, but I do an unofficial 16-week camp. And I texted Mo on, I think it was July 31st, and ADCC was, I think, August 16th. And I'm like, there's a 99% chance I can't do this. Like, I didn't do one acceptable session throughout the entire camp. Like, it was like, I would like do the session, like wouldn't even be able to train, or like I was doing like one round and then dry heaving and like having to stop. And then I was like, I'll give you an answer from when we're leaving, which was the 10th. So like, we had like from the August 1st to August 10th was the last hard 10 days of the camp. And then you get to Vegas and you just do like light sessions.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to try to do everything I can to get to this event for you. And if I die, as soon as I get my hand raised, I'll be okay with it. So I had like 10 days where I could like just manage to train with the best guys. I was like super nauseous, but I was able to get through the rounds. So I just grabbed like Luke and Giancarlo would do hard rounds, and I just focused on like my timing, wrestling, and like tried to get my cardio to where it needed to be. And I had like, I think it was 18 sessions and 10 days for that entire camp.
10 days is definitely not enough time.
Yeah.
And you weren't even like on baseline shape before that?
I mean, no, because I couldn't even lift hard because I was just dry heaving. I couldn't train hard because I was just dry heaving. So it was like, I was just like dragging myself through camp, just like trying to survive as a person. And then like the last 10 days, I like had like okay sessions, and I was like, I basically just did it for like John and Mo. I'm like, I want to break the records. This was, I had 5 gold medals. Winning 2 this year would give me 7, which would put me as an all-time gold medal holder. So I was like, I'll do it for Mo because, he needs the star there, and I'll do it for John just to get him those records. But this was definitely the hardest camp I've ever done.
Yeah, so you're in a situation, 29, which would be right about your peak, already considered the greatest of all time. Do you think you're going to grapple much longer, or kind of see where the body goes? Or
Well, I'm really healthy, but I'm rehabbing my knee. I heard a little at ADCC, but I'm really healthy besides my stomach. If my stomach just got better, I would compete until I was like 40. Like I really theoretically should peak, because all of my game isn't about athleticism, but just about isometric strength. So I'm getting stronger isometrically, and I will continue to do that until, I'm 35, 40 and still have good cardio. My stomach is just so bad. So really right now I'm just trying to get my stomach better and just focusing on opening up our school, which should be open in a few months. And then
yeah, that'll be exciting. What's it called? New Wave, right?
Yeah.
And that's in Austin.
Yeah, actually someone trademarked New Wave, so I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to change the name, but I don't want to.
Yeah, and people in jiu-jitsu definitely should go check out that when that's open. Check that out.
Yeah, we'll have us. Everyone always asks, so I get like so many DMs every day, like, can we come train? Right now we're teaching out of Renzo Gracie Austin, which you guys, anyone can go to, but the classes are pretty packed, so there might be a cap on how many people can go. Roca is our pro session, so don't come there. We will not let you in. It's like a sunglass company.
Guys,
like it's like a corporate office. Do not go to Roca unless you're invited. But when we open up our school, then the school will be open up to everybody. So you can come in, you can train if you live there, or you can come in, pay a drop-in fee, and train with us. And our school's gonna be sick. It's gonna have about, I think it's 3,100 square feet of mat space. We're gonna have I think it's like 6 or 7 showers total between men and women, and we're gonna have one for the instructors, a private one. But there's not many spots that they're gonna have showers. Yeah. So it'll be like a nice, very cleanly and cool gym with good mat space, good environment, and some showers.
Yeah,
dirty fucks out there.
That'll be the spot to train.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I saw something funny, or I remembered before we came over here, I was googling some stuff, and I remember seeing I think it was a Bloody Elbow. They ran a story calling you, what was it, like a racist or a white nationalist or something?
Oh yeah. Bloody Elbow is always the best. They always do great hit pieces.
Stories on me too.
Yeah. That was for I got canceled during BLM because someone was arguing about something on Facebook, and someone tagged me, and basically the argument that they were trying to the argument was that people of color shouldn't have to work as hard as white people just because they're people of color, and it made no sense. And I was like, this is absolutely retarded. The color of your skin means that, if you want to have success, work hard. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin.
Exactly.
Your work ethic. And there is this rapper, Young Manny, who got a hold of this, and he started saying, and this was right as people started to get canceled. So everyone was terrified of it. And there was this rapper, Young Manny, that got a hold of that comment, and he posted on his story, and he's like, if you go to Flow Grappling, and IBJJF, and you put hashtag ban Gordon Ryan, I'll Venmo you. And ban Gordon Ryan is the worst thing this fucking idiot could have posted, because when you put hashtag ban Gordon, it's BANG. So it looks like Bang Gordon Ryan instead of ban Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where is all this shit coming from? Because people were tagging me. I'm like, where's all this shit coming from? So then I finally figured out it's this little skinny rapper dude, Young Manny, who was posting this, and he's attacking me, and he thought that I was gonna be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and apologize. And I just laid into it 100 times harder. I'm like, you thought I was actually gonna fucking apologize to you? You look like a little skinny fat fucking lesbian. I'm like, I'm not fucking apologizing to you. I'm like, I'll say whatever the fuck I want. So he went on an Instagram Live, and he went to go bring me into the Instagram Live, and you can actually YouTube it if you put in Young Manny and Gordon Ryan solve racism. It's the best clips. It was like a 4-hour thing of me arguing with him, but they put 5 minutes of the best clips. And at one point, I'm like, dude, everyone on this stream thinks you have an IQ of 40, and he's like, what? And I'm like, exactly.
Didn't even know what it means.
Yeah. So we just we had a debate. It wasn't a debate. It was basically just me telling him facts and him just And then he started. So then he couldn't debate me on actual statistics. So then he started telling me I was poor. And then he's like, you see that? He's like, look at that Corvette, and it's a picture of a Corvette on YouTube. And I'm like, oh hey, you want to see a Corvette? There's one in my fucking garage right now. So then he started calling me poor. So we started arguing about that. So I douched him on that because he doesn't have any money. And then he was trying to say that I wasn't good, and he's like, we should fight. And I'm like, we definitely should fight, and we should stream it. So it was statistics, then it was money, then it was combat, and he just got douched on all of them. And then finally he gave up and
disappeared.
That was the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when we get called racist, because guys like me and you, we treat everyone exactly equal, and that's how jiu-jitsu is. But they think equal treatment's racist. Some of these people, they're completely insane.
Well, the thing is, if you just don't agree with their talking points, you're racist. It's so insane. And most of the people who are calling you racist are obviously Democrats. Like the Democrats have historically been the most racist people, like of all time. Like Biden was actively fighting for segregation. He gave a eulogy at the head of the Klan's funeral. Kamala has like put more people of color in like jail for like misdemeanors and like weed than like anybody else has. Obama deported more immigrants than anyone has in history. Like it just all like the Democrats were like pro-slave. They were the KKK. Like the Democrats, the people who are calling you racist are people who have historically been the most racist. The best is when they talk about like voter ID laws.
Oh God, that one's hilarious.
Because they're like, oh yeah, black people are just too stupid to get an ID, and they're like, what? Whoa.
That's what someone said. I used to hear that all the time in San Francisco. I'd always be like, so when you invite your black friends out, do you ask if they have an ID? It's like, how racist are you?
Yeah.
That's just insane to me.
And there was actually one video of like a guy, he would go to college campuses and he would interview college kids, and they'd be like, oh yeah, like they don't have like the resources. Like they don't even know how to get to the DMV. And then he would go to like Harlem and he'd be like, hey, do you know where the DMV is? And he's like, oh yeah, it's over there on 125th. It's just like, so it's mind boggling.
No, it's hilarious. And it's funny too, trying to get you banned from IBJJF and BJJ Fanatics. You're like the #1 grosser in both of those.
Oh yeah. Like,
especially Fanatics.
Fanatics just like laughed at it. They're like, first of all, he didn't say anything racist. And then number two, like, we're not here to we're like not like the morality police. Like we're here to sell instructionals.
Yeah, it's
like,
martial arts. We don't really
like,
care someone's views. That's up to you.
And dude, that's what I love about Dana. Like Dana doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, you say whatever you want. He's like, this is America. He's like, I'm not going to tell anybody what to say. He's like the only guy, like the only corporate guy.
Yeah, the rest of them are all censoring your speech, which is insane.
Yeah.
And also during COVID, they were the first sport back. The whole COVID thing was insane.
Yeah, no, Dana doesn't give a fuck. That's what I like. I like that a lot about him.
You know, I like that too. I mean, COVID was so crazy in New York, you guys had to move to Puerto Rico.
Yeah. COVID was actually great for me because everybody was stuck inside and had nothing to do. So my instructional sales went through the roof.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And there was no traffic going into New York. So it was just like, I was like, this is incredible. Like it was like basically like that movie I Am Legend. Like it was like nobody was there. It was just homeless zombies. Like and they were like irate because there was no one around to give them money
to harass,
to like get drugs or get food or anything. So like if you did run into a homeless person, they were just so upset about like all of it that was happening. So like you had to deal with that, but everything else was like perfect. I would just drive through the tunnel. It would be like, I lived in North Jersey at the time, so I was a little bit closer. So it'd be like 20 minutes through the tunnel, no traffic. You just go into Henzo's, you go train.
And you still had training, which is good. I was in San Francisco. People were like so lame; they didn't want to train. I illegally opened Gil's gym, and then I was hitting everyone up with training. And like there were like multiple people that was like, "Oh, my girlfriend won't let me, or my wife won't let me." Could you imagine saying your girl won't let you train?
Yeah, I know. Well, dude, even like a lot of guys in the team were like afraid to like come in to train, and I'm just like, dude, if you're gonna be afraid of fucking dying, and you're just gonna sit in your house and not do anything and be afraid to go outside because you're afraid you're gonna die, you may as well just be fucking dead already.
No, exactly.
Like, if you're not gonna live your life, you may as well just die.
That's my exact thoughts.
I was like, I'm just gonna do everything that I do normally, and if I get COVID and die, I get COVID and die. But I'm not gonna sit in my house afraid I'm gonna die. I may as well just be dead.
No, exactly. That was my exact thoughts. I never understood. I was insane how scared people were.
Yeah.
And when I legally opened the gym, people were like, okay, maybe we should do like distance training or not switch partners. I'm like, dude, just come in or train or don't come in.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Just don't fucking come if you're gonna bitch about this shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's wrap up. Where can people find you? BJJ Fanatics, obviously, for your instructional series.
Yeah, so BJJ Fanatics, basically on my Instagram, it's Gordon Loves Jiu-Jitsu. I have 2 accounts. The one is probably shadow banned, but there's one with an underscore that has a check with like 400,000 followers, and there's one with 1 million. The one with 1 million is my actual account. My other one's like my backup. And then I have linked all there. It's just Gordon Loves Jiu-Jitsu. And I have like my website, I have my YouTube, I have my Fanatics, I have all my sponsors and everything there. So, and then just Gordon Ryan on Facebook. So
cool.
I gotta get a Twitter and check out, or an X, I guess, and check out some of your political rants. I was telling someone the other day, I'm like, Jake Shields fought George St. Pierre for the UFC title. I'm like, but he's just famous on X for being like a political guy. I'm like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, I guess we wrap up. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you. Of course.